Everyone said Claire had the perfect life, a beautiful home, a kind husband, a mother-in-law who adored her. But behind the polite smiles and Sunday brunch, something darker brewed. It started small, a comment here, a suggestion there. You should really do your hair like this, dear. It suits our family better. Maybe don't cook tonight. Daniel likes my recipe more. Claire laughed it off, eager to fit in. She wanted to belong, to prove she was enough. After all, her own mother had died when she was young. She craved approval like air. But approval from Evelyn Whitmore came at a cost. Evelyn wasn't cruel, not in obvious ways. Her control was subtle, elegant, wrapped in kindness. You're so lucky. I'm helping you, she'd say with a smile sharp enough to draw blood. Claire's friends told her she was overreacting. All mothers-in-law are like that, so Claire stayed quiet, pretending it didn't sting when Evelyn corrected her in front of guests, when she rearranged her kitchen, or when Daniel sided with his mother just to keep the peace. Then came the anniversary dinner. Evelyn raised her glass, smiling for the camera. To Claire, she said sweetly, "Who's finally learning how to be part of the family?" Laughter followed. Claire smiled, but something inside her cracked. Later that night, while clearing the dishes, she heard Evelyn whisper to Daniel, "She's trying, bless her heart. Just not quite enough." That was the moment, the breaking point, the last straw in a marriage where silence had become survival. Claire didn't know how yet, but she knew this. She would never beg for belonging again. The next morning, Claire woke to the smell of coffee and the faint clatter of dishes downstairs. For a moment, she thought Daniel had surprised her with breakfast. But when she stepped into the kitchen, it was Evelyn, wearing her robe, using her favorite mug. "Morning, dear," Evelyn said, as if it were her own home. "Daniel had to leave early, so I thought I'd keep you company." Claire forced a smile, though her stomach twisted. "You have your own house, Evelyn," the older woman laughed lightly. "Yes, but you know how lonely it gets. And besides, this house needs a woman's touch." The implication hung in the air like smoke. Claire's chest tightened. "I live here," she said quietly. Evelyn's smile faltered, just for a second, before returning sharper. "Of course you do, sweetheart." Hours later, Daniel called, his voice casual. "Mom said she's helping out while I'm at work. Don't be rude, okay?" Something inside Claire went cold. That night, Evelyn stayed for dinner again and again the next night. Soon, she was spending weekends there just to help. Claire's home no longer felt like hers. Even her bedroom seemed invaded. Evelyn folded her laundry, rearranged her perfume bottles, left little notes. Asterisk lines get better at this. "Darling," asterisk Claire stopped inviting friends, stopped talking about it. Until one night, she overheard Evelyn talking to Daniel through the half-open door. "You deserve someone who knows how to take care of you. She's trying, but she's not like us." Daniel didn't answer. He didn't defend her. That silence hurt more than any insult ever could. In bed later, Claire stared at the ceiling, eyes burning. She realized she wasn't losing her home. It had been taken from her piece by piece, under the disguise of care. And now, it was time to take something back. The next day, Claire decided to draw a line. She woke early, cleaned the kitchen before Evelyn could step in, and made breakfast the way she liked, not the way Evelyn approved. When Evelyn arrived, unannounced as usual, she found Claire humming softly, the table already set. "Oh," Evelyn said, taken aback. "You've been busy. I live here," Claire replied simply, her tone calm but steady. For a brief moment, Evelyn's mask slipped. Her smile froze, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Of course you do," she said, pouring herself coffee without asking. All morning, the air was tense, the sound of quiet warfare. Claire refused to let Evelyn correct her or comment on her cooking. Every time Evelyn tried to help, Claire countered with a kind but firm no. It was subtle, but it was power. Later that evening, Daniel came home, sensing the chill. "Everything okay?" he asked. Evelyn sighed dramatically. Just a little misunderstanding. You know how sensitive Claire can be. Claire's stomach turned, but she stayed silent. Daniel frowned, looking at her. You should try to get along, honey. Evelyn reached over, patting his hand. Don't worry, darling. I'll handle it. That night, after everyone was asleep, Claire sat in the darkened living room. The shadows seemed to whisper the truth she'd been avoiding. Evelyn wasn't just protective, she was territorial. This wasn't about family. It was about control. Claire realized she'd spent years trying to be loved by a woman who would never see her as enough. But that night, staring into the quiet glow of the city lights, she whispered to herself, enough isn't something I need to earn. It's something I already am. And with that, the first spark of rebellion flickered in her chest. Days turned into weeks, and the unspoken war between Claire and Evelyn grew colder, quieter, and more dangerous. Every act of defiance was met with a new form of control. Claire found her phone buzzing with friendly reminders. From Evelyn grocery lists, decorating suggestions, even subtle corrections on how to talk to Daniel. You sounded sharp tonight, one message read. Men hate that tone. Claire deleted it. Then another came. I booked the florist for your anniversary. You never picked the right. Once Evelyn's interference bled into every corner of her life. At brunch with friends, Evelyn would show up unexpectedly. At Daniel's office parties, she'd smile at colleagues and say things like, Claire gets nervous in crowds. Each remark chipped away at Claire's identity until she barely recognized herself. One night, Claire confronted Daniel. She's crossing boundaries, she said. She's trying to run our lives, Daniel sighed. She just wants to help. You always take things so personally. The words stung more than he knew. Claire stood there, holding her breath, realizing she'd lost more than peace. She'd lost her partner to his mother's version of reality. Later that night, Claire scrolled through old photos on her phone. In every picture, Evelyn was there standing between them, smiling. Always smiling. That's when Claire saw it clearly. Evelyn didn't just want control. She wanted Claire gone. The thought made her pulse race. And for the first time, Claire didn't feel fear. She felt something sharper resolve. She wouldn't yell or cry or beg. She'd wait. And when the time came, Evelyn wouldn't even see it coming. Evelyn's patience had limits, and Claire could tell she was testing them. The next Sunday, Claire hosted dinner her way. No Evelyn-approved recipes, no decorative napkins folded into swans. Just warmth, simplicity, and laughter. Her friends came early, bringing flowers and stories. For a few hours, the house felt alive again. Then, as if summoned by joy itself, Evelyn arrived uninvited, holding a pie. I thought you might need a little help, she said, eyes scanning the table. Claire smiled politely. We're fine, thank you. Evelyn's gaze landed on the food. No roast. Daniel loves my roast. Claire's smile didn't falter. Daniel loves trying new things. For the first time, Evelyn had no comeback. The evening went smoothly until dessert. Evelyn leaned close to a guest and whispered, She's still learning, poor thing. But Claire heard it. She stood, calmly collecting the dishes. Evelyn, she said, her voice clear. You don't have to stay if you're uncomfortable. The room fell silent. Daniel froze. Evelyn blinked, stunned. Excuse me, I said. Claire repeated softly. You don't have to stay. Evelyn's face turned pale. You're being dramatic. No, Claire said, setting down the plate. I'm being honest. Evelyn gathered her purse, muttering something under her breath, and left. The door closed like a punctuation mark. For the first time in years, Claire felt her heartbeat steady. Her hands trembled, but her chest felt light, the kind of relief that only comes after choosing yourself over peace. Daniel sat quietly for a long moment before saying, You didn't have to do that. Claire looked at him, her voice almost a whisper. I did, for me. The aftermath of that dinner rippled through the house for days. Daniel barely spoke to Claire. When he did, his words were sharp, unfamiliar. You embarrassed her, he said. In front of everyone, Claire didn't argue. She'd spent too many years trying to make him see what he refused to. Instead, she said softly, I stood up for myself. That sentence hung between them like smoke. Evelyn, of course, didn't stay quiet. Within a week, whispers spread among family and neighbors. Claire was difficult, ungrateful, emotional, even. Daniel's sister stopped answering her texts. Isolation closed in like fog. One afternoon, while walking home from work, Claire saw Evelyn's car parked outside her house again. Her hands clenched. Inside, she found Evelyn rearranging the living room furniture. Daniel said I could help, she said breezily. Claire's voice trembled, but she didn't raise it. Get out, Evelyn blinked. Excuse me. Get out, the words were steel. Evelyn's face hardened. You're destroying this family. Claire stepped closer. No, Evelyn. You already did. For a moment, Evelyn said nothing. Then she grabbed her purse and left, the door slamming behind her. Claire sank to the floor, tears spilling freely. It wasn't victory she felt, it was grief. Grief for the version of herself that had begged to be loved, for the home that never truly belonged to her. But beneath that grief, something else stirred peace for the first time in years. The silence felt like hers. Weeks passed, and for a while, things seemed calm. Evelyn stopped showing up, Daniel kept his distance, and the house was finally quiet. But peace, Claire learned, has a price. Daniel had grown cold, distant. He came home late, avoided eye contact. And when he did speak, his words carried resentment. You could have handled it differently, he'd say. You didn't have to push her away. Claire no longer argued, not because she agreed, but because she'd spent years being unheard. One evening, she found him packing an overnight bag. Just staying with Mom for a few days, he muttered. The words sliced through her like glass. Of course, she said softly. When the door closed, the house felt enormous, hollow, yet finally her own. Days turned into nights filled with silence and reflection. Claire started cooking for herself again, sitting by the window, writing in the old notebook she'd abandoned years ago. She wrote everything she had swallowed for so long, every insult, every manipulation, every time she chose peace over herself. And as the pages filled, something unexpected happened. She began to remember who she was before she became someone's wife, someone's daughter-in-law, someone's target. One afternoon, she received a text from Evelyn. Asterisk, you broke this family. Asterisk, Claire stared at it, then typed slowly. Asterisk, no. I just stopped letting you own me. Asterisk, she hit send, closed her phone, and smiled not out of spite, but relief. For the first time, the silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like freedom. One evening, as autumn crept into the air, Daniel returned home unexpectedly. His voice was softer, uncertain. We should talk, he said. Claire looked up from her notebook, calm but guarded. He hesitated before adding, Mom's not doing well. She misses us. Claire's chest tightened. The words weren't new, but the weight behind them was. She misses control, Claire said quietly. Daniel frowned. She just wants her family back. Her family, Claire asked. Or her throne. Silence filled the room. Daniel looked away. You've changed, he murmured. Claire nodded. I finally stopped living for someone else's approval, he sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. You used to be so kind. Claire smiled faintly. I still am. I'm just not obedient. That night, when Daniel left again, she didn't cry. She sat by the window, watching the leaves fall, and realized something profound. She no longer needed his validation either. The next morning, she received a letter not from Evelyn, but from Daniel's sister, Emily. It was simple. Asterisk, I saw what she did to you. I'm sorry I believed her. Asterisk, Claire held the note for a long time, tears forming in her eyes. Maybe not everyone was blind. Maybe, just maybe, truth had a way of finding its voice after all. She picked up her phone, opened a new message to Evelyn, and typed, Asterisk, I hope one day you learn what love really means. It isn't control. It's letting go. Asterisk, then she deleted it. She didn't need to send it. The message wasn't for Evelyn anymore. It was for herself. The weeks that followed were strangely quiet. Claire spent her days working, reading, and rediscovering small joys, morning walks, coffee at her favorite cafe, evenings without tension. The house, once filled with Evelyn's presence, now breathed freely again. One afternoon, Daniel showed up unannounced. He looked tired, older somehow. Mom's been asking about you, he said. Claire met his eyes. And what do you tell her? He hesitated. That you're doing fine, good, she said. Because I am, he looked around, the silence between them heavy with memories. It's different without you, he admitted. Different isn't always bad, she replied. He tried to smile. She says she just wanted what's best for me. She wanted control. Claire said calmly, you let her have it. I'm done playing that game. Daniel's shoulders sagged. I didn't realize how much she hurt you. You didn't want to. Claire answered softly. He nodded, guilt flickering across his face. She's sick now, he said finally. And she wants to see you. Claire's breath caught. Part of her wanted to slam the door. Another part, the one that still believed in closure, whispered otherwise. That night, she sat by the window again, the notebook open beside her. She wasn't the same woman who had once begged to be accepted. She had built her own peace, and this time, she would protect it. Maybe forgiveness wasn't for Evelyn. Maybe it was for herself, so she could finally let go of the pain and the need to be understood. Tomorrow, she decided she would go. Not as the broken girl who once sought approval, but as the woman who had learned that walking away was sometimes the most powerful way to win. The hospital room was quiet except for the rhythmic beep of a monitor. Evelyn lay in the bed, pale and small beneath the white sheets. The woman who once commanded rooms with her presence now looked fragile, human. Claire stood in the doorway, uncertain. Daniel sat beside his mother, glancing up when he saw her. She wanted to see you, he said softly. Evelyn opened her eyes, faintly smiling. Claire, she whispered, her voice thin. You look strong. The words carried no venom, just tired truth. Claire stepped closer, her heart both heavy and strangely calm. I had to be, she said. Evelyn nodded weakly. I thought control meant love. I was wrong. Claire's eyes filled, but her voice stayed steady. We both were they, sat in silence for a long time. Two women finally stripped of pretense, bound by the same pain of wanting to be understood. When Evelyn reached out her hand, Claire took it, not out of forgiveness, but out of peace. Hours later, when she left the hospital, the sun was rising soft and golden. The world looked different, lighter. At home, she opened her notebook for the last time and wrote, Asterisk, I spent years trying to please everyone. Now I'm learning to live for myself. And somehow, that's enough. Asterisk, she closed it, smiled, and looked around her quiet home. This time, the silence wasn't empty. It was hers. She spent years trying to please everyone, until she finally learned the power of choosing herself. Claire's story reminds us that peace isn't found in being accepted. It's found in being free. If this story touched you, don't forget to hit like, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and subscribe for more emotional dramas that remind us how strength often comes in silence. Tell me in the comments, have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace? Sometimes saying enough is where healing truly begins.